We're going to solve equations using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. And so if you're given a quadratic equation and you want to solve it and see what x is equal to, you can plug the a, b, and c values. So the a value would be the number or the coefficient of the x squared term. The b value would be the coefficient of the x term, and the c value would be the constant or the number that's by itself. And it always has to equal 0. So if you have something on the right side other than 0, you have to move everything to the left side. And then you're just going to identify those a, b, and c values and plug them in. Because it's x squared, there will be 2 different answers of what x equals, which is why you have a plus and a minus. And I'll go through a couple problems with you so you can understand how to use the formula. So we're going to start with x squared plus 5x plus 6. So in this, we're going to start by identifying what a, b, and c are equal to. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we still have the quadratic formula up here that we can look at. So the a term is a coefficient of x squared. Well, 1 would be multiplied by x squared, so we know that a is equal to 1. B is a coefficient of the x term, which is 5, and c is a constant, which is all by itself. So all we're going to do is take those values and plug them into our formula. So we're going to do negative b, which would be negative 5, plus and minus the square root of, we have b squared, so we have 5 squared, minus 4 times the a term, which is 1, times the c term, which is 6. And all of that is under the square root sign. This is over, on the bottom, we're going to have 2 times the a value, which a is 1. Okay, and this is what x is equal to. So we're going to simplify. So we have x equals negative 5 plus and minus the square root of 5 squared is 25 minus, we have 4 times 1 times 6. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So then we're just going to put that over 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, now we're going to continue simplifying. So I have x equals negative 5 plus and minus the square root of 25 minus 24 is 1 over 2. All right, I can keep simplifying. X equals negative 5 plus and minus the square root of 1 is 1. Put that over 2. Okay, I've simplified it pretty much as I can. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my 2x values. So x is equal to negative 5 plus 1 over 2. And x is also equal to negative 5 minus 1 over 2. So you have to do both. You have to use the plus and the minus. So you're going to get 2 different answers for what x is equal to. So I'm just going to simplify this. So x equals negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4 over 2, which gives me x equals negative 2. So that's one value that x is equal to. The other one, x equals negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 over 2. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, so x equals negative 3 is my second answer. And if I plugged either of those back in for x, it would simplify so that the 2 sides would be equal. So it would be 0 equals 0. So plugging in negative 2 and then going back and plugging in negative 3. So you can always double check your work. All right, I'm just going to draw a line to separate this next problem. I'm going to scroll down so you can see the formula. All right, so my a term is 3. My b term is 7. or my b value is 7, and my c value is 2. Okay, so if it's not written in the correct order with the x squared term first, then the x term, then the constant, go ahead and reverse it or rearrange it so that it's in the correct descending order. Okay, so we're going to plug it in. We have negative, the b value is 7. This is what x equals. Plus and minus the square root of b squared, so 7 squared, minus 4 times the a term, which is 3, times the c term, which is 2. All of this is over 2 times the a term, which is 3. All right, so we have x equals negative 7 plus and minus the square root of, oh, I better move down. So all I did was bring this down. X equals negative 7 plus and minus. 7 squared is 49 minus, I have to solve what's under the square root first. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. Over 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so I have x equals negative 7 plus and minus. Square root of 49 minus 24 is 25 over 6. So I have x equals 7, negative 7, can't forget that negative, plus and minus. Square root of 25 is 5 because 5 times 5 is 25 over 6. All right, so I've simplified it enough that at this point, I'm going to figure out what my two x values are by using the operations. So I'm going to start up here, and I know x is equal to negative 7 plus 5 divided by 6, which I can simplify to x equals negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2 over 6, which gives me x equals negative 1/3. So that's one of my answers, but I know it's equal to two different things. So I have x equals, right, negative 7 minus 5 over 6. So I did the plus one up here, so I'm going to do minus down here. All right, so we have x equals negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12 over 6. Negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2, so x equals negative 2. All right, so both those answers work. If I plug those both back in for x, the two sides would be equal. Well, since this side is 0, this side would be reduced to 0. All right, so I'm going to try one just a little more complicated. So remember I said it has to equal 0 on the right side. Because it doesn't equal 0, we have to move the negative 7 to the left by adding 7 to both sides. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0, so I have 15x squared plus 4x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, so I know my a term is 15, or my a value is 15, my b value is 4, my c value is 7. So I'm going to plug it into the formula. Negative b value, which is 4, plus and minus the square root of b squared, so 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 15, times c, which is 7. All of this over 2 times my a value, which is 15. All right, this is what x equals. All right, I'm going to simplify what's under my square root first. So I have x equals negative 4 plus and minus the square root. 4 squared is 16 minus, well, 4 times 15 is 60. And I need to do 60 times 7. So I'm just going to write that over here. 60 times 7, multiply, you get 420 okay, over 2 times 15 is 30. All right, so now I still need to continue reducing. So I have x equals -4 plus and minus square root. All right, so we have 16 minus 420 gives me -404 over 30. All right, I have to continue simplifying. I can simplify the square root of -404. I'm going to do a little work over to the side just so it doesn't interfere with the rest of my work. So I know that 404 breaks down to 2 times 202. Then 202 breaks down to 2 times 101. And I can't break down 101. So I know that the square root of -404 is the same thing as the square root of -1, because I have to deal with that negative. You can't just leave the negative under the square root, times 2 times 2 times 101. So I can pull the -1 out as I. Square root of -1 is equal to I. And because I have 2 times 2, I can also pull a 2 out. Meaning that this reduces to -4 plus and minus. Square root of -404 reduces to 2i times the square root of 101 over 30. All right. Next step, I can continue simplifying. I'm just going to bring my work up here. All right, I know that, so my whole numbers in each term, so I have 3 different terms here. So 4, 2, and 30 can all be divided by 2. So to simplify it further, I can divide each by 2. So I have x equals -4 divided by 2 is -2, plus or minus 2i times the square root of 101 divided by 2 is just I times the square root of 101. Over 30 divided by 2 is 15. And I've reduced it as much as possible. So I can leave my answer like this. There's 2 different answers there. I have -2 plus I times the square root of 101 over 15. And I have -2 minus I times the square root of 101 over 15. I can leave it like this though, so it's more condensed. All right, I would like you to try 3 problems. When you're finished with them, I will go through the answers with you. So go ahead and try them out. All right, so the first one, our A term equals 1, B equals 6, C equals 5. So plugging them into our formula, we have -6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 5, over 2 times, this is what x equals, 2 times the A term, which is 1. All right, so x equals -6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 5 is 20, over 2 times 1 is 2. I'm just going to reduce it this way because I'm running out of room. -6 plus and minus the square root of 36 minus 20 is 16 over 2. So we have -6 plus and minus square root of 16 is 4 because 4 times 4 is 16 over 2. Now I can pull out my 2 answers. We have x equals -6 plus 4 over 2, which reduces to -6 plus 4 is -2 over 2. And -2 divided by 2 is -1. We also have x equals -6 minus 4 over 2, because remember we have plus and minus. -6 minus 4 is -10 over 2, which gives me -5. So both answers. All right, number 2. A is 2, B is -1, C is -3. So when I plug this in, We have negative the b term, which is negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. All right, negative times negative 1, well, that's positive 1, plus and minus the square root of negative 1 squared is 1, because negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, minus, we have 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times negative 3 gives me negative 24. So minus a negative, change it to plus a positive, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. All right, so I have 1 plus and minus the square root of 1 plus 24 is 25, all over 4. I'm going to reduce it one more time. I have 1 plus and minus square root of 25 is 5. Ooh, that doesn't look like a 5. Over 4. I'm going to rewrite it so you can read it. Don't want you thinking it's a 6. Okay. Now I can solve for my 2x answers. So we have x equals 1 plus 5 over 4, and we have x equals 1 minus 5 over 4. All right, 1 plus 5 is 6 over 4. 6 over 4 reduces to 3 halves, which we can reduce to 1 and 1/2. 1 minus 5 is negative 4 over 4, which reduces to negative 1. All right, last one. We're going to move everything to the left. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And I get 3x squared plus 4x minus 2 equals negative 9. I have to also move that negative 9 by adding 9 to both sides. We get 3x squared plus 4x plus 7 equals 0. All right, so this is my problem I'm going to work with. Okay, that means that A equals 3, B equals 4, and C equals 7. So we have negative 4 plus and minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times 7. All of this over 2 times 3. All right, negative 4 plus and minus the square root. I'm simplifying it by writing across instead of keep writing x equals, which you technically should. All right, 4 squared, 16, minus 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times 7, we get 84. All right, so then we're going to keep going, put this over 6. Okay, we get negative 4 plus and minus the square root of 46 minus 84 is negative 68 over 6. All right, I have to break down 68. Negative 68. So I'm going to do that at the bottom. Square root of negative 68. Okay, well, I can pull out, let's see, we have 2 times 34. 34 breaks down to 2 times 17, which is prime, so I know I'm done. So this breaks down to square root of negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 17, meaning square root of negative 1 is I that I can bring out. Square root of 2 times 2, I can bring out a 2, and 17 staying under. So this reduces to negative 4 plus and minus 2i times the square root of 17. All of that over 6. And that, oh, I can actually reduce it. So we have 4, a 2, and a 6 as all of our numbers in each term. So we can divide them all by 2. So that means x is equal to negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. plus and minus 2i times the square root of 17 divided by 2 is just I times the square root of 17. Over 6 divided by 2 is 3. So there is our final answer.